I read Marvel comic books. That was, well, actually the first time I really got into, I learned how to read from comic books when I was about 5 or 6. And the combination of pictures and words together really helped a lot. And my family drove all the way across the country. We moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. And to keep me busy in the car, my father bought me comic books. But when I was about 12 or 13, for some reason, I sort of got back into them and actually started with Archie comics and was really into that. Probably because there were 2 pretty girls in it and I was just getting interested in pretty girls. But then it was Marvel Comics, and this was the 1960s, so Marvel was really just beginning and doing very, very exciting stuff. Jim Steranko and John Buscema and Kirby and people like that. And then I also discovered black and white comic books, which were usually scary comics. So the people like Alex Toth that I got. And so I was following artists more than anything else and was really attracted with that. And I'd always been encouraged to be an artist the way little kids are by their family usually. And I just never stopped being interested in that part of it. So that was my inspiration. I always thought from a young age that maybe I could do this for a living. And it took me till I was almost 30 to actually make that work, but just something exciting about it. Well, it's not just one answer, I think. There's something about the way that Jeff and I, when we worked together, that people like, that we really liked. We became very close friends while we were doing it. But we'd worked together before that, and it hadn't really taken off. So there's we got better at what we were doing, so there's some of it that's that. But also it was a year-long murder mystery, and people weren't doing that sort of thing. There were a lot of, the whole rogues gallery could be in there, Two-Face and Joker and Riddler and everybody, so that was fun too. And we learned a lot doing it. And other than that, it just people, Batman is really it's certainly the most popular character that DC has. And one of, I don't know, top 3 characters in comics. And it happens to be somebody that I have an affinity for drawing. Because I do like, I'm colorblind, and I don't see or create with color. So I like a lot of contrast, a lot of black and white. And Jeff loves film noir and stories like that with a lot of shadows. And so all of that just really all came together, I think. Yeah, no, they've been very nice talking about that. And a lot of it is, that's more about what Jeff did than, it was more about the writing. And that was kind of inspired by, there was a BBC production talking about the Beatles very early, and how it was sort of the 4 of them against, not really against the world, but they had each other, and the world was, suddenly everybody in the world knew who they were, and their private lives were, and they were very young, they were in their early 20s, and so we wanted that kind of, for Batman, Gordon, and Harvey Dent to kind of feel that way as their world was changing, as Gotham was changing, and the freaks were coming in. that at the same time as that it used to be a corrupt town with gangsters, and so we took sort of what Miller had done in year one and extrapolated on that, and so that was that inspiration, and I think Nolan really responded to that as well. He made it more of an epic kind of thing, and he's used that word when talking about the Long Halloween as well, and I don't look at it that way. It just happens to be longer, but I think of it as a smaller story, in a really very simple story, in which he's trying to figure out, it's a whodunit, whose holiday. Batman's trying to figure it out, and it takes him a year to figure it out. Partly because he's not really a very good detective, and partly because that's just, we wanted it to take a year, so it has to take a year. But it's not an epic in the way that Lawrence of Arabia, you know, that kind of thing. But that's how Nolan saw it. So he made the movies really kind of bigger than what we were doing. No, people have mentioned it to me, but I don't. They don't have to tell me anything about whatever they're doing. DC doesn't have to, Warner Brothers doesn't have to. They own and run Batman, and everything that we've done is theirs. It's what you do when you work on a licensed piece of property. I don't own any of it, or I don't get to say, no, I don't think these aren't the right people for a movie, or, I mean, that's just not the way it's done. We get no extra money if they adapt things. I think it's pretty impossible. But with things like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and things like that now, Amazon, there's a longer format. You could tell stories that way. I don't know if it necessarily would make a good movie or series, but it might. It sort of depends on. Batman is a very hard character to do anything. I mean, it's a silly looking outfit on a human being. It works well when you draw it. And it obviously, Batman the Animated Series, the Bruce Timm series, did a tremendous job. So there are ways to tell those stories that are really very high quality. But those are animated, and I don't know that it can work that well with live action stuff, but don't know. Just because they haven't done it that well as of yet doesn't mean it can't be done, so maybe. Well, a lot of it is, I still think the way that, I mean, almost all movies are not very good. The same way with any creative field. Almost all television is not very good. Almost all novels are not very good. You know, but the ones that work can work amazingly great and can change the way people think about things. And so there are very few comic book movies, in my opinion, that really work, but the ones that do, I think, are tremendously entertaining and good. And a lot of that is the way that special effects have been able to catch up to the things that people can do that make it more believable. I mean, it's one thing with the first one that really did a great job, I think, was as far as costumed characters go, because I think V for Vendetta is a very good story and a very good adaptation, but it's not really about costume stuff. But Iron Man worked because it's essentially a robot, and you can do that was easily done with the special effects that they had at the time that way. But the next one that really kind of changed things, at least for me, in my opinion, was the first Captain America movie and then Winter Soldier, and where there really is just a guy in a costume running around, and they found the perfect guy for it. The writing was good. The special effects were just good enough so that you could make it believable. He's kind of I mean, his body and everything is kind of a cartoon just in and of itself. You would agree with that, I think, yes. No, it's amazing. And the thing that was really cool in the first one, was they made the skinny Steve Rogers look so real. And so that was great. The things that you can do now, as long as the writing is good. It's just tough to figure that kind of stuff out, because it's inherently kind of a silly thing. But once it's just believable enough, it can really work. It can be really fun. I'm going to be doing some interior work in the Batman world coming up, and so over the next year and a half, I'll be doing some of that. It's the first interior work I've done, other than a little short story here and there, since Captain America White. And it's not going to be with Jeff, because Jeff doesn't write comics anymore. But I'm excited about that, and we'll see how that goes.